sat down with YouTuber Earth Focker for about an hour and a half and talked with him about Flat Earth for a student documentary that people were making. And something I learned from him is that he interacts with his YouTube community in a completely different way than I do. And remember, YouTube functions by having people watch a lot of content in order to see a lot of ads, and flat earthers are making that kind of content. It's super high volume. They're long format live streams. It's kind of a perfect storm. Anyway, I think that the short answer for who is really behind Flat Earth is... Earth is flat, or that they at least have their doubts that it's round. I'm going to test that. I'm going to test if the Earth is flat or not. And to do that, I actually need to go somewhere where it's super flat. So that's why I'm going to Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada, and I'm going to measure and calculate the size of the Earth using just my bicycle and 2 sticks. This is not a joke. I'm here with Casey at the Saskatchewan Science Center, and we've got 2 identical sundials set up. Right now, since they're in the same place, the shadows are the same length. But I'm gonna be leaving one of them here with you, Casey. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. And he is going to set it up on this very spot, right here. And I'm taking the other sundial, and I've strapped it to my bike. And I'm going to bike down that road right there. And that road is the reason that I've come all of the way to Saskatchewan, because that road is perfectly straight for somewhere around 140 kilometers. And I've come to measure that distance on my bike. Okay, so I just zeroed the odometer. Let's get started. Here goes science. Okay, let's get started. Here goes science. Okay. This is Highway 33, and since it's very flat here and there are no mountains to go around or hills to go over, this is one of the longest straight roads in the whole world. This is Highway 33, and since it's very flat here and there are no mountains to go around or hills to go over, this is one of the longest straight roads in the whole world. And that's why I'm here. Let's pretend that this orange is the Earth. Now, this is the Earth, and these 2 sticks are going to be the 2 sundials we're working with. Don't try this at home.
It is well here, still with the switches turned off. Okay. Okay. Oh, hey! Wait a minute. What? Where are the reflections? I've been fooled once. There is orange soil. Well, don't move it till I see it. It's all over. Orange! Don't move it till I see it. I've stirred it up with my feet. Hey, it is! I can see it from here. It's orange. Wait a minute, let me put my visor up. It's still orange. Sure it is. Crazy. Orange. I've got to dig a trench, Houston. Copy that. I guess we better work fast. Out of his wits. It really is. Same color as these. Temperature on the SEP is about 100 and, temperature on the SEP's about 102. It's almost the same color as the LMP decal on my camera. Okay, copy that. That is orange, Jack. This brush is getting harder to get on and off, too. But I sure don't want to lose it. Man, I may start putting that under my seat. Well, zap me with a little cold water. Okay, the SEP has been dusted. I think I gave you 102 or something like that. Fantastic, sports fans. It's trench time. You can see this in your color television, I'll bet you. How can there be orange soil on the moon? Jack, that is really orange. It's been oxidized. Go around and get the lunar sounder over here. It looks just like an oxidized desert soil. That's exactly right. Well, I'm going to clean their glasses so they know we're. Can you wait a minute on that pan you're taking? I already took it. No, I mean the television camera. I'll put you back where I had you. Now, I'll let you put you right where you finish your pan.
Please. Okay. Since the orange is round, anytime we line up the shadows like this, they will never be the same length. If the shadow on the right is short, we can expect the one on the left to be longer. If they were the same length, then the orange would have to be flat. Now we can also measure the length of the two shadows at the same time and measure the distance between them and figure out the circumference. Since the sun is really far away, we can treat its light as coming in straight lines.
Here's a map of ancient Egypt. I've inserted two sticks or obelisks, one up here in Alexandria and one down here in Syene. Now, if at a certain moment each stick casts no shadow at all, that's perfectly easy to understand, provided the Earth is flat. If the shadow at Syene is at a certain length and the shadow at Alexandria is the same length, that also makes sense on a flat Earth. Whatever are they talking about? Let's imagine that we are perfectly flat. I mean absolutely flat. And that we live, appropriately enough, in a flatland. How are you? I am a visitor from the third dimension. Well, the poor square looks around his closed house, sees no one there, and so he descends to actually enter flatland. Now, a three-dimensional creature exists in flatland only partially, only a plane, a cross-section. His only conclusion could be that he's gone bonkers. Well, the apple might be a little annoyed at this conclusion, and so not such a friendly gesture from dimension to dimension, makes a contact with the square from below and sends our flat creature fluttering and spinning above flatland. Happened to you. And the poor square has to say, well, I was in some other mystic dimension called up. And they will pat him on his side and comfort him, or else they'll ask, well, show us, where is that third dimension? Point to it. And the poor square will be unable to comply. Now, imagine a universe just like Flatland, truly two-dimensional, and entirely flat in every direction, but with one exception. Unbeknownst to the inhabitants, their two-dimensional universe is curved into a third physical dimension, maybe into a sphere, but at any rate, into something entirely outside their experience. Locally, their universe still looks flat enough, but if one of them, much smaller and flatter than me, takes a very long walk along what seems to be a straight line, he would uncover a great mystery. Suppose he marked his starting point here and set off to explore his universe. He never turns around and he never reaches an edge. He doesn't know that his apparently flat universe is actually curved into an enormous sphere. He doesn't sense that he's walking around a globe. Why should his space be curved? Because there's so much matter in this universe that it gravitationally warps space, closing it back on itself into a sphere. But our Flatlander doesn't know this. After a long while, you'll find he somehow returns to his starting point. There must be a third dimension. Our Flatlander couldn't imagine a third dimension, but he could sure deduce it. Now, increase all the dimensions in this story by one, and you have something like the situation which many cosmologists think may actually apply to us. We are three-dimensional creatures trapped in three dimensions. We imagine our universe to be flat in three dimensions, but maybe it's curved into a fourth. We can talk about a fourth physical dimension, but we can't experience it. No one can point to the fourth dimension. I mean, there's left, right, and there's forward, back, there's up, down, and there's some other directions simultaneously at right angles to those familiar three dimensions.
And therefore, we can figure out what angle it's hitting both of the sticks at. And that allows us to figure out what angle the two sticks would meet up at in the center of the orange. Reach the first stop sign. It's the end of the road, and it is Stoughton. Okay, so I just set up one sundial in Stoughton and Casey set up the other one in Regina. We made sure that they were both level and checked that they were both aligned with one another, and everything seems to be good. I've got okay, I just measured my shadow and mine was 66.1 centimeters, and then I called Casey and his was 70.0 centimeters, which means that our shadows are 3.9 centimeters different. Mine is 3.9 centimeters smaller than his is in Regina, which means that the Earth is a sphere, and it means that I can calculate the size of the Earth. Now, I expect that it won't be exactly accurate, but it's going to be pretty darn close. Now that we know that the distance we measured is 1/240th of the way around the whole Earth, if we take the distance that I measured, the distance that I biked, and multiply it by 240, we can figure out how big the circumference of the entire world is. When we do that, we end up with 33,120 kilometers. The true size of the Earth is 40,075 kilometers, which means that my measurements and calculations This is Highway 33, and since it's very flat here, Earth Focker 33 2014, 2015, some big YouTubers started to bring attention to the flat earth thing, most notably Michael from Vsauce, which remains the most watched video on flat earth to this day. In 2015 and 2016, there was a huge explosion in the amount of content about flat earth that was being put onto YouTube. A lot of those videos and a lot of the comments on those videos are just people attacking one another and making fun of one another, which is something to keep in mind for a moment. By 2017, there's the first Flat Earth conference, and it kind of just goes on from there. Then eventually in 2019, YouTube did a crackdown on what they call borderline content, and they started recommending Flat Earth videos less. And viewership kind of dropped off from there. You might still be wondering, who exactly are these Flat Earthers? Researchers have gone to Flat Earth conferences in order to interview the attendees, and in nearly every case when someone has come around to the belief that the Earth is flat, it was because YouTube recommended them videos about it. They didn't come to it by themselves. So if YouTube is helping to promote misinformation, which I really think it is, how do we solve that? I have 5 ideas. One is that we can pressure governments and social media platforms, because it's not just YouTube, it's Twitter, it's Facebook, it's all of them. We can pressure them to improve their algorithms and their regulations to be harder on misinformation. 2, we can vaccinate people against misinformation by improving science literacy, both in schools and on social media in general. 3, we need to improve the way we communicate facts. We can't just tell people facts, we have to tell people stories and engage with them emotionally. Number 4, even though it's really easy to tell people they're stupid on the internet, when we see people that do not hold our beliefs, we need to approach them with compassion. If we make fun of them, we're just going to drive them further away, we're going to ostracize them, we're going to make the entire situation worse. Use compassion. And last but not least, we can use YouTube and other platforms differently. You can avoid the entire YouTube homepage. I just bookmark my subscription feed and just go to that, and that way YouTube doesn't recommend me a bunch of things I really don't need to see. Is YouTube. For about 100 years, no one, at least very few people, were talking about the Earth being flat, until YouTube started recommending it. The whole reason I wanted to make this video is not because I think it's important that people understand the true shape of the world, but because I think it's important that people understand how misinformation spreads. There are way more videos on YouTube that have 1 million views for flat Earth than for climate change. And I think it's probably true that there's generally more people watching flat Earth videos than videos about the climate. That is wild to me.